I let my thoughts slip about her body, and her reaction was absolutely unbelievable. Ethan had always thought of himself as careful. A scientist by training and an explorer by choice, he had spent his life charting worlds few humans had ever touched. This time, however, his curiosity had brought him to a planet that shimmered under twin suns, a place where the sky burned gold and the ground pulsed with life unlike anything he had studied before. He walked slowly through the alien jungle, every step carefully placed. The leaves under his boots glowed faintly, reacting to his presence with soft pulses of light. Strange birds, translucent and glittering like liquid crystals, darted through the branches above him, their calls echoing like soft music. Ethan marveled at the ecosystem's delicacy and complexity, taking notes on every detail. He had seen many worlds before, but this one felt alive in a way that made him almost dizzy with wonder. It was there, among a grove of towering crystalline trees, that he saw her. At first he thought she was part of the environment, a trick of the light, but as she moved, the glow around her shifted like a subtle aura. She was humanoid, tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly, reflecting colors he hadn't known existed. Her eyes were large and intelligent, the kind of eyes that seemed to look through him and into something deeper. Ethan froze. He had read about other intelligent species before, studied them from afar, but this was different. He had never expected to meet one face to face, especially not here, in the middle of a jungle that had been charted as uninhabited. "Hello," he said, almost instinctively. His voice sounded small against the vastness of the grove. The being tilted her head. There was no fear in her eyes, but there was curiosity. Her gaze lingered on him as if weighing his intent. Ethan noticed the way her body moved with effortless grace, each motion flowing into the next. He felt a surge of admiration. It was not just her appearance, though she was undeniably striking, but the way she seemed to exist perfectly in harmony with her surroundings. Before he could stop himself, he muttered under his breath, "Her body, it's amazing." Immediately, he realized he had spoken aloud. His face flushed with embarrassment. He hadn't meant it in a crude way, just awe, scientific awe, but the words hung in the air like sparks. The being froze, her luminous form flickering slightly. Ethan's heart sank. Had he made a mistake? Would she attack or retreat? His mind raced, trying to calculate the safest approach. But then she did something unexpected. She smiled. A gentle, almost knowing smile that made Ethan pause. Instead of anger or fear, there was understanding and a challenge in her eyes. She raised a hand, pointing deeper into the grove, and gestured for him to follow. Ethan hesitated. His rational side warned him of danger, but his curiosity overpowered it. Slowly, he stepped forward. The jungle seemed to respond to her presence. Flowers opened as she passed, leaves shifted gently, and soft lights danced around her. Ethan tried to keep up, taking careful notes, but the beauty of it all threatened to overwhelm him. Every step felt like walking through a living dream. Finally, they arrived at a clearing where the light was brighter and the plants more vivid. Strange fruits hung from the branches, some glowing faintly, others pulsing with color. A soft mist hovered over the ground, carrying scents he could not identify but found oddly pleasant. The being stopped in the center of the clearing and turned to face him fully. Her eyes seemed to pierce through his thoughts, and for a moment, Ethan felt completely exposed. He realized that his earlier comment had not offended her, but it had marked him as someone who noticed, someone who could see beyond mere appearances. "You notice," she said, her voice melodic, almost like a song. Ethan understood her, though the sound was unlike any human language he had heard. It was as if her words entered his mind directly, clear and unambiguous. "Yes," he said carefully. I meant no disrespect. I was just amazed." She nodded slowly, a gesture that seemed to carry approval. Then, without another word, she moved toward a cluster of plants and touched one with a delicate finger. The plant responded instantly, its glow intensifying. its petals unfurling as if in greeting. Ethan watched in awe. "You see," she said, gesturing to the plant, "everything here is connected. Everything has purpose, function, beauty. You humans often see only one part, one aspect. You rarely notice the full design." Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of humility and excitement. This was exactly why he had come to explore, to learn, to understand. And here was a being who could teach him more in minutes than years of study ever could. Over the next few hours, he followed her as she demonstrated her interactions with the environment. She touched a flower, and it released a shower of tiny lights. She moved near a pond, and the water shimmered, forming patterns that seemed almost like writing. Ethan scribbled notes frantically, trying to record everything. His earlier embarrassment faded as his mind focused entirely on learning. As they moved, he began to notice subtleties in her form, how her body adapted perfectly to every surface, how her movements conserved energy, how her senses seemed attuned to the smallest changes around her. He realized that what he had blurted out before wasn't just admiration, it was recognition of something extraordinary. At one point, she paused and looked at him directly. "You must learn restraint," she said softly, though not as a rebuke. "To notice is good. To assume is dangerous. Observation must be paired with respect." Ethan swallowed, nodding. He felt a surge of respect for her in return. This wasn't just an alien encounter. It was a lesson in perspective, in seeing the universe with fresh eyes. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the grove. Ethan had spent hours following her, yet it felt like only minutes. For the first time in his life, he felt both small and infinite at the same time, small in the vastness of this alien world, and infinite in the possibilities of understanding it. As he prepared to leave, she gestured toward a narrow path that led further into the jungle. Ethan hesitated. He had responsibilities back at the colony, experiments to run, reports to write. But something about the way she looked at him, patient, encouraging, challenging, made him reconsider. He nodded slowly. "I'll follow," he said. She smiled again and without another word, turned and walked down the path. Ethan followed, heart pounding with anticipation. He did not know what awaited him, but for the first time in a long time, he felt that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The jungle around them seemed alive in a new way now. Every plant, every flicker of light, every sound was part of a larger story, one that he was beginning to understand. And though he had started the day with a simple, almost careless thought about her form, it had led him to something far greater, a chance to learn, to grow, and perhaps to discover the potential of humanity in a universe full of wonders. As night fell, Ethan realized that this encounter had changed him. He had glimpsed a world beyond his understanding, and in doing so had glimpsed a better version of himself, curious, respectful, and ready to face the unknown. And somehow, he knew this was only the beginning. Ethan followed Lyra down the narrow path, the glow of the jungle casting shifting patterns across the ground. Every step seemed to take him further from the familiar and deeper into something extraordinary. The air was warm but fresh, carrying scents he couldn't name, hints of flowers, minerals, and something that felt almost like electricity. Lyra walked gracefully, her steps silent, as if she were part of the jungle itself. Ethan struggled to keep up, his boots crunching against the glowing moss, his breathing growing heavier. Yet he could not help but feel exhilarated. Every sense he had was alive. Every shadow and shimmer made his mind race with questions. Finally, they reached a small clearing surrounded by tall, crystalline plants that hummed faintly. In the center, a pool of liquid shimmered with colors that seemed to shift with thought. Lyra stopped and crouched at the water's edge. Ethan did the same, though cautiously, unsure of what this pool represented. "This is my world," Lyra said, her voice calm but resonant in his mind. "Every being, every plant, every drop of water has a purpose. Humans often look only at what they can use." You look and you wonder. That is rare." Ethan blinked, impressed. He had spent years studying alien ecosystems, but this was unlike anything he had seen. I don't know what to say. It's beautiful. Every part of it, it feels alive." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "It is alive. Everything here reacts to energy, to thought, to intention. You humans rely on tools. Here, thought itself can guide action." Ethan leaned forward, touching the surface of the pool lightly. It responded instantly, forming ripples that spread outward in perfect symmetry. Colors danced across the water, almost like words forming in patterns he could not yet read. It reacts to me," he whispered. "How? You feel, you think, you wonder." "That is enough," Lyra explained. "Some beings have limits, some do not. I can sense your curiosity. That is why I brought you here." For hours, Ethan watched and learned. Lyra demonstrated her interactions with the environment. A simple wave of her hand could guide the plants to shift and grow in patterns. She touched a stone, and it floated gently above the ground. She sang softly, and the pool vibrated in response, forming shapes that mirrored the jungle itself. Ethan scribbled notes frantically, but even as he did, he realized that writing could not capture the true essence of what he was witnessing. The energy of the jungle, Lyra's presence, and the interplay of life around them created something beyond his understanding, a living language written in light, sound, and motion. At one point, he let his gaze linger a little too long, studying her movements as she adjusted the flow of a glowing vine. He felt his earlier awe return, that same fascination he had tried to suppress in part one. He knew he had to be careful. His thoughts could betray him, but he could not help noticing the elegance of her form and the precision of her actions. Lyra paused and looked at him, sensing his thoughts. Curiosity is natural. Desire to understand is good. But observation must remain respectful, she said gently. To see is one thing, to assume is another. Ethan nodded quickly, feeling both embarrassed and enlightened. He realized that his initial comment, the one that had startled her, had been careless. Yet she had not judged him harshly. Instead, she had guided him. This was a lesson not just about the jungle or her species, but about himself. As they continued, Ethan noticed small creatures moving through the foliage. Tiny, insect-like beings with translucent wings shimmered as they moved, and small mammals with patterned fur peeked curiously at the visitors. Lyra gestured toward one of the creatures and focused her thoughts. The creature froze, then slowly approached, recognizing her presence. Ethan watched in awe. He realized that Lyra's connection to the jungle was not just physical but deeply mental. She could communicate without words, sense the intentions of the creatures, and guide them gently without causing harm. This is incredible," Ethan whispered. You can connect with them," Lyra nodded. "All living things are connected. Some humans are learning this slowly. You are beginning to see it. That is why I am showing you." Hours passed like minutes as Ethan absorbed the lessons. He learned about balance, the delicate harmony that allowed this jungle to thrive, and the respect Lyra held for every living creature. He realized that humans, despite their intelligence, often overlooked such connections, valuing speed, power, or control over understanding. Then suddenly the mood shifted. A low rumble echoed through the grove, vibrating through the ground. Ethan instinctively crouched, looking around for danger. Lyra's body tensed, her glow flickering. "A storm of plasma currents are rising," she said calmly. "It will be dangerous if we remain here." Ethan's mind raced. He had read about plasma storms, but he had never experienced one so close. The energy could destroy plants, animals, even human machinery. He looked at Lyra, unsure what to do. She gestured toward a hollow formed by crystalline trees. "We must protect ourselves, and the creatures nearby," she said. Working together, they guided the smaller animals to safety. Ethan used what he knew about containment fields and energy shields to create a temporary barrier. Lyra adjusted her own energy, stabilizing the area around them. For a brief moment, human ingenuity and alien understanding merged seamlessly. The storm struck with fury, sending sparks of plasma through the trees. Ethan watched, heart pounding, as branches bent and shimmered under the electrical force. But within the protective barrier, he and Lyra remained safe, and the creatures huddled together, unharmed. "You are quick to act," Lyra said, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Humans have great potential. Courage, ingenuity, these are qualities worth preserving." Ethan nodded, feeling a surge of pride. He had been terrified moments ago, but now he realized the value of his instincts, his training, and his willingness to act. It was a lesson in more than science. It was a lesson in humanity. After the storm passed, the jungle seemed to breathe again. Leaves shimmered softly, plants returned to their natural glow, and the creatures slowly emerged from hiding. Ethan exhaled, realizing how close they had come to danger. Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable but calm. "You see the strength of humans not in their bodies but in their minds, and sometimes it is thought, curiosity, and courage that can save the day." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of her words. He had started this journey thinking he would study her species, but he realized that he had also been learning about himself. Every step, every moment had challenged him, and every lesson had left him a little wiser, a little braver. As night fell, the jungle glowed with bioluminescence, casting long, flickering shadows across the ground. Ethan and Lyra walked back toward a small ridge overlooking the forest. From there he could see the colony in the distance, tiny lights scattered across the landscape, a reminder of the human world he had temporarily left behind. Lyra stopped and looked at him. "Tomorrow, we will go further. You will learn more, and I will show you what your species could become if it truly sees the universe. But tonight, rest. The mind must be ready for what comes next." Ethan nodded. He knew she was right. Even with all the excitement, the adrenaline, and the wonder, he needed to process everything he had seen. The lessons were only beginning. As he lay under the softly glowing canopy, staring up at the alien stars, he thought about how far he had come. Just hours ago, he had been in awe of her form, a simple reaction that could have been awkward or embarrassing. But instead, it had led him to knowledge, understanding, and connection. And he realized something else. In the universe, humans were small, but curiosity, courage, and respect could make them mighty. He closed his eyes, feeling the pulse of the jungle around him, ready for whatever came next. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint hum of the jungle waking to the twin suns. Ethan stretched and took a deep breath, still amazed that he had spent the night surrounded by glowing plants and whispering life forms. Lyra was already waiting for him at the edge of the ridge, her body shimmering faintly as the sunlight touched her. "Ready?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm in his mind. Ethan nodded. "I think so. What are we doing today?" she smiled. "You will see. The jungle has tests, and today you will learn not just to observe but to act." They descended into the dense forest. Ethan followed carefully, watching Lyra move as if the jungle itself bent around her. Birds and small creatures darted through the light, unafraid, recognizing her presence. Ethan felt a thrill of connection to a world so alive. They reached a wider clearing where the plants grew taller and the colors more vivid. But before he could admire the scene, the ground beneath them began to tremble. Ethan froze. "Earthquake," he whispered. Lyra's glow pulsed rapidly. "No, plasma storm again. It is rising faster than before. This is dangerous." Before Ethan could respond, bolts of raw energy crackled through the jungle, striking the ground and trees. The hum of the plants turned into a sharp, discordant vibration. Small creatures scattered, frightened by the sudden chaos. Ethan felt panic rising, but he forced himself to focus. Lyra gestured for him to follow. "We must protect them," she said, "and survive." Ethan didn't hesitate. He remembered the temporary shield he had created during the previous storm. Drawing on his knowledge of energy fields and emergency protocols, he began to set up a containment barrier. Lyra hovered nearby, her energy merging subtly with his, stabilizing the edges and protecting both the animals and the plants. The storm intensified. Plasma arcs lanced through the air, striking trees and sending sparks flying in all directions. Ethan's heart raced as he adjusted the shield, sweat dripping down his face. "This is worse than yesterday," he shouted, though Lyra could hear him clearly in her mind. "Yes," she agreed. "But humans can adapt. I can guide you, but you must act." He focused, adjusting the energy flow, drawing on every calculation he could remember. The shield flickered, strained under the storm, but held. Lyra moved among the frightened creatures, calming them with gentle gestures and soft telepathic pulses. Ethan realized that without her guidance, he could not have managed both the shield and the living beings around them. Minutes passed like hours. Every strike of plasma seemed closer, more violent. Ethan's mind was sharp, calculating energy flows, predicting arcs, and maintaining the barrier. The storm roared around them, but the clearing remained safe. Finally, the storm began to weaken. The plasma bolts thinned, and the jungle's natural hum returned, soft and soothing. Ethan collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. Lyra hovered beside him, glowing faintly as if assessing him. "You acted well," she said. "Your mind worked quickly. Your courage protected many lives." Ethan exhaled, trying to calm his racing heart. "I couldn't have done it without you," she shook her head. "You did, I only guided. Humans have a different strength. You think, you create, you adapt. That is why I brought you here. I wanted you to see what your species could become." Ethan felt a surge of pride. For so long, humans had been seen as fragile, insignificant in the vastness of space. Yet here, in this alien jungle, he realized their potential was immense, not in strength alone, but in intelligence, courage, and the ability to act under pressure. After the storm, they moved to a safer area. Ethan watched as Lyra tended to the smaller creatures, guiding them back into hiding places and helping plants recover from minor plasma strikes. He realized how deeply connected she was to every living thing. Her energy seemed to weave through the jungle like a protective thread, a reminder of the delicate balance that held this world together. "You humans often rush," Lyra said suddenly, her voice calm but firm. "You act without seeing. You destroy without understanding. But today you showed patience and care. That is rare." Ethan nodded, humbled. "I've always wanted to explore and understand. Maybe humans can do more than just study. Maybe we can protect too." Lyra's glow brightened slightly, almost as if she were smiling. "Yes. You are learning, but this is only the beginning." As they walked further, she led him to a ridge overlooking the jungle below. The canopy stretched for miles, shimmering with bioluminescence even in the dim morning light. "See this," she said. "Every tree, every creature, every plant is part of a system. Your species often sees only parts, never the whole. You humans must learn to connect the pieces, to see the consequences of your actions. That is true power." Ethan marveled at the view. He had never felt so small and so capable at the same time. The universe suddenly felt like a place where humans, despite their flaws, could make a difference. Suddenly, a strange vibration ran through the ground. Ethan stiffened. "Another storm?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "No, something different. Follow me." They descended into a narrow valley where the energy of the jungle seemed to pulse faster. Ethan noticed a faint glow beneath the soil. Curious, he knelt down, brushing aside the glowing moss. He gasped. Embedded in the ground were crystalline structures, pulsing with energy, unlike any plant or mineral he had studied. "These are life sources," Lyra explained. "They provide energy, guidance, and balance to the jungle. If damaged, the ecosystem could collapse." Ethan's mind raced. "How can we protect them? If the storm comes again, they'll be destroyed." Lyra gestured for him to observe closely. "You must think differently. Use your mind. Adapt. Your species has tools, yes, but thought itself is a weapon stronger than any machine. Together they worked. Ethan began to design a mental and energy map, predicting where plasma flows might strike. Lyra guided him, showing him how to channel his energy in harmony with the jungle. Slowly, methodically, they created a protective pattern, a blend of human logic and alien intuition. Hours passed. Ethan felt exhausted yet exhilarated. The storm could return at any moment, but for now the valley and its life sources were safe. He realized that this was more than survival, it was collaboration, a merging of species, knowledge, and courage. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes steady. You see, Ethan, humans have a strength not always visible. Courage, intelligence, adaptability. You acted with all three. That is why I brought you here. To show you that your species can rise to challenges, not by destroying, but by understanding and creating solutions. Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose. This was what exploration truly meant. Not just discovering alien worlds, but discovering what humans could achieve when they combined their mind, heart, and courage. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the valley, Ethan and Lyra stood together, surveying the jungle below. The glowing plants, the creatures returning to their homes, and the gentle hum of life around them created a moment of perfect harmony. You have learned much today, Lyra said, but tomorrow, the real challenge begins. You will see the potential of your species in ways you cannot yet imagine, and you will learn that courage and intelligence can shape not just your world, but worlds beyond. Ethan nodded. I'm ready. Whatever comes next, I want to learn, to understand, to help. Lyra's glow brightened. Then rest. Your mind must be strong. Your heart must be steady. The universe will test you, but humans have the capacity to rise. As Ethan settled down for the night, he reflected on the storm, the creatures, and the strange, beautiful life he had witnessed. He realized that his fascination with Lyra had transformed into something greater, an appreciation for the intelligence, balance, and interconnectedness of life itself. And for the first time, he truly believed in the potential of humanity, not as conquerors, but as protectors, thinkers, and allies in the vast, mysterious universe. The morning light filtered through the crystalline canopy, casting long, shimmering beams across the jungle. Ethan awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. The previous days had been filled with awe, danger, and lessons that pushed the limits of his understanding. But today, he felt that something greater awaited him. Lyra was waiting at the edge of the ridge, her body glowing faintly in the soft sunlight. She beckoned him forward with a simple gesture. Ethan hurried to catch up, excitement and curiosity quickening his steps. Today, she said, her voice calm and melodic in his mind, you will see knowledge your species has never touched. You will understand not only the jungle but also the potential within humans themselves. Ethan's heart raced. He had expected many surprises, but this promise felt monumental. As they moved deeper into the forest, the plants seemed to recognize them, shifting gently to clear their path. The hum of the jungle was steady, almost guiding them, like an invisible hand leading them towards something extraordinary. After a short walk, they arrived at a narrow canyon, hidden beneath towering crystal trees. The walls shimmered with light, and Ethan noticed faint carvings etched into the crystalline surfaces, forming patterns that seemed both alien and strangely familiar. These are records, Lyra explained. My species has preserved knowledge here for thousands of cycles. Few humans have ever approached this place. Ethan's eyes widened. Records, knowledge of what? Lyra's glow intensified. Of life, energy, balance, and potential. This is the heart of the jungle's intelligence, and now you will understand why curiosity and courage matter. She led him down a twisting path, and they entered a vast chamber. The walls pulsed with energy, and in the center floated an orb of light. Its surface shimmered with moving images, representing life, ecosystems, and patterns across the planet. Ethan approached cautiously, feeling a sense of reverence he had never experienced. "Touch it," Lyra instructed. "Let your mind connect." Hesitant but trusting, Ethan reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the orb, a surge of information flooded his mind. He saw the jungle from every angle, felt the flow of energy through every plant, every creature, every molecule. He understood how Lyra's species maintained balance, how every action created ripple effects across the ecosystem. His mind reeled. This was knowledge beyond science books, beyond experience. It was understanding on a scale humans rarely achieved. And yet, amidst the overwhelming information, he felt a spark, a sense that humanity could reach this level too, if only they learned to observe, respect, and adapt. "You see," Lyra said, sensing his thoughts, "the jungle thrives because we respect all life. Humans can do the same, not by force but by understanding. Your species has potential beyond what it realizes. Curiosity, intelligence, courage, these are your strengths." Ethan nodded, feeling both humbled and inspired. I think I understand. This isn't just about survival or exploration. It's about harmony, balance, and responsibility." Lyra's glow brightened with approval. "Yes. And humans have the ability to expand this understanding beyond one world. Imagine a universe where your species approaches new life not to conquer, but to learn, to adapt, and to protect. That is the true potential of humans." Ethan felt a rush of awe. For so long, humans had been seen as fragile, impulsive, and limited. Yet here he was, standing in the heart of alien knowledge, realizing that their capacity for thought, empathy, and courage could shape worlds. Suddenly, the orb pulsed with brighter light, and images of other planets appeared. Some were lush like this jungle, others barren, yet all connected in patterns of energy and life. Ethan realized that Lyra's species had been observing not just this planet but the universe itself. Their knowledge was vast, but they had chosen to share it with someone they saw as capable, a human. "You were chosen," Lyra explained. "Because of your mind, your heart, and your curiosity. Many humans would have looked only at my form as you did at first. Few would have sought understanding. You showed potential." Ethan felt a mixture of humility and pride. His initial awkwardness, his fascination, had transformed into something greater. It had opened the door to knowledge, connection, and purpose. As he absorbed the lessons, Lyra guided him to a side chamber filled with more orbs and crystalline structures. Each represented different aspects of life: physics, energy, biology, thought, and connection. She instructed him to explore them, to see patterns and relationships he had never imagined. Hours passed, though Ethan lost track of time. With each new orb, his understanding grew. He saw how intelligence, energy, and life could coexist in harmony. He realized that humans, despite their flaws, had the ability to approach this level of understanding. All it required was curiosity, courage, and respect for what they did not yet know. Finally, Lyra gestured for him to rest. "Knowledge is not only what you absorb, it is what you apply. Tomorrow, you will return to your colony. You will take what you have learned and use it to guide, to protect, and to inspire. That is the lesson of this world." Ethan sat, reflecting on everything he had experienced. The storms, the creatures, the collaboration, the hidden knowledge, it all led to this moment. He understood now that human potential was not measured by strength, speed, or dominance, but by thought, empathy, and action. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything. I never expected any of this when I arrived here." Lyra's glow pulsed warmly. "Curiosity brings you here, Ethan. Courage allows you to act, and understanding transforms knowledge into wisdom. Remember this. Humanity can rise, not through destruction, but through learning and respect." Ethan nodded. He felt a sense of clarity he had never known. The embarrassment of his first words, the awe of her form, had been only the beginning. The true journey was not about fascination alone. It was about growth, connection, and responsibility. As the sun set, casting golden light across the jungle, Ethan knew he had changed. He had glimpsed the potential of humans, not as conquerors but as collaborators, learners, and protectors. Lyra had shown him that humanity could rise to challenges that seemed impossible, not through brute force, but through courage, intelligence, and respect for life itself. Before leaving the chamber, Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Go, Ethan. Teach, guide, and explore. Your species can shape worlds if you choose wisely. Remember the jungle, its balance, and the lessons you have learned. That is your gift and your responsibility." Ethan looked at her, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. "I will. I promise." With that, they emerged from the canyon and began the journey back to the colony. The jungle around them seemed quieter now, peaceful after the recent storms. Ethan walked beside Lyra, feeling both small and infinite. The stars were beginning to appear in the sky above, and he imagined the vastness of the universe, filled with worlds waiting to be understood. He thought about humanity's place among the stars. For so long, humans had sought to conquer and claim, to dominate and control. But he now understood another path, a path of curiosity, courage, and respect. A path that could elevate humans to be true allies in the universe, capable of understanding and protecting life beyond their own world. As they reached the edge of the colony, Ethan turned to Lyra. "Will we meet again?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Perhaps. But even if not, the lessons are with you. Share them wisely, and humanity will rise." Ethan watched her fade into the jungle, her glow blending with the bioluminescent plants. He felt a sense of awe, not just at her form or power, but at what she had shown him, the potential of a species, and the possibilities that awaited if humans chose the path of understanding and courage. He stepped back into the colony, the familiar sights and sounds now imbued with new meaning. Every plant, every creature, every human around him was part of a larger pattern. And for the first time, Ethan truly understood that humans, small though they might seem, had the capacity to rise, to protect, and to thrive, not through force, but through intelligence, curiosity, and respect for life itself. That night, as he recorded his notes and observations, Ethan felt a deep sense of purpose. The journey had begun with a simple fascination, an unguarded thought, and it had led him to a truth far greater than he had imagined. Humanity could indeed rise among the stars, guided by courage, intelligence, and the lessons learned from worlds beyond their own. And somewhere deep in the alien jungle, Lyra watched, knowing that the spark of curiosity she had nurtured in one human could one day illuminate the path for many. The universe was vast, mysterious, and beautiful, and for the first time, Ethan felt that humans were ready to meet it with wonder, courage, and wisdom.